came up to me after a while and he said, "Excuse me, has anyone ever told you that you're the absolute spitting image of that Mr. Bean?"
This isn't the story of a clown. This is the story of a survivor. We all know the face, the rubbery expressions, the silent chaos. The man who could make the entire world laugh without saying a single word. Mr. Bean, Blackadder Johnny English. He is a global institution, a man who built a fortune of over $150 million by falling down and getting up again. But if you think you know Rowan Atkinson, you are looking at a mask. Because the truth is that the man who brought us the most joy has spent 70 years fighting a war inside his own head. He didn't become a comedian because he wanted attention. He became one because it was the only way he could speak. Rowan Atkinson was born in 1955 in Consett, County Durham. A quiet, disciplined farm life. But before he could even form his first memories, tragedy struck. His eldest brother, Paul, died as a baby. That kind of loss sits in the walls of a home. A quiet sadness that shapes a family forever. Rowan grew up with that silence. He was the youngest, the observer, and then came the stutter. It wasn't just a nervous tick, it was a wall. By the time he was 5 years old, the words wouldn't come out. Imagine being a child, bright, sharp as a tack, but trapped inside your own throat. School wasn't a playground, it was a battlefield. At Durham Chorister School, the cruelty was precise. He had a classmate you might have heard of, Tony Blair, the future Prime Minister. Blair remembered it well. The other kids didn't just tease Rowan, they destroyed him. They called him an alien because of his face. They mocked the sounds he made. So Rowan retreated. He went inward. He spent his childhood alone, hiding from the mockery. But then a miracle happened. A strange, inexplicable, physiological miracle. When he stepped onto a stage and pretended to be someone else, the stutter vanished, gone completely. The boy who couldn't say his own name could recite Shakespeare perfectly as long as he wasn't being Rowan. That is the tragedy and the genius of the man. To be whole, he had to be someone else. He wasn't destined for Hollywood. He was destined for a lab coat. The man is brilliant, legitimately brilliant. He got top grades in science, went to Newcastle University, and then to Oxford for a master's in electrical engineering. He was studying self-tuning control systems. He was writing a thesis. He was on track for a PhD, but the pull of the stage was too strong. At Oxford, he met Richard Curtis. Richard saw this quiet, awkward guy in the corner and thought nothing of him. Then Rowan stood up. He did a sketch where he mimed driving a car while speaking. Richard Curtis later called it pure genius. And just like that, the engineer was dead and the performer was born. But let's not pretend it was an easy ride. The BBC rejected him again and again. They didn't get it. They didn't understand him. He fell into a depression. The stutter came back with a vengeance during interviews. He almost quit. He almost went back to engineering. And then came Not the 9 O'Clock News in 1979. It was vicious, political, and hilarious. The critics hated it. They called it offensive, but the public loved it. Rowan was finding his footing. But look at the pattern. He was a perfectionist. He wasn't having fun. He was working. When the show ended in 1982, it wasn't because it was canceled. It was because the cast was burned out. They walked away from a hit show because the anxiety was eating them alive. Then came Blackadder, and this is where we see the grit. The first season cost a fortune, filmed in castles, and honestly, it wasn't that funny. The BBC almost axed it, but Rowan didn't buckle. He pivoted. They cut the budget, they moved it indoors, and they hired Ben Elton. Blackadder became the sharpest, most cynical, most brilliant sitcom in British history. The finale of Blackadder Goes Forth, when they go over the top of the trenches in World War I, is not comedy. It is one of the most heartbreaking moments in television history. That was Rowan. He could make you laugh at a turnip and then break your heart with a stare. But the real monster was Mr. Bean. To you and me, Mr. Bean is a delight. To Rowan Atkinson, he was a burden. He created the character at Oxford, a child in a man's body. It conquered the world. It was sold in 245 countries. You didn't need to speak English to understand a man getting a turkey stuck on his head. But Rowan hated doing it. He admitted it drained him emotionally. He felt the weight of millions of people waiting to laugh, and he felt like a fraud. He called the character exhausting. Imagine creating something that everyone loves, but every time you become him, it takes a piece of your soul. That is the price of his fame. And while he was conquering the world, his personal life was complicated. He met Sunetra Sastry, a makeup artist in the late 80s. He actually switched makeup artists on the set of Blackadder just to talk to her, beating Stephen Fry to the punch. They were married for 24 years. They built a life. They had 2 kids. Then, in 2014, the bombshell dropped. At 58 years old, the marriage fell apart. He left Sunetra for Louise Ford, a comedian who was 31 years old, 27 years his junior. The press went wild. They called it a midlife crisis. They called it a scandal. Sunetra was devastated. It was messy. It was real. It wasn't the fairy tale ending fans wanted, but it was the human reality. He became a father again at 62. But here is where Rowan Atkinson surprises you. He isn't just an actor. He is a man of conviction. In 2001, he was on a private plane over Kenya with his family. The pilot fainted, passed out cold. The plane was going down. Rowan Atkinson, the man who plays a bumbling fool, grabbed the controls. He had never flown a plane. He slapped the pilot until he woke up, all while keeping the aircraft steady. He saved his family's life. That is steel. And he has a spine when it comes to politics, too. In 2012, he stood up in Parliament and gave a speech on free speech that should be required reading for every university student today. He argued that the right to offend is far more important than the right not to be offended. He fought against the cancel culture mentality before it even had a name. He said, the problem with the law is that it assumes there is a right not to be offended. There isn't. He took heat for that. The activists came for him, but he didn't back down. And then, in 2023, he did it again. The man is a car nut. He was buying hybrids 18 years ago. He has a degree in electrical engineering. So when he wrote an article for The Guardian saying he felt duped by electric vehicles, people listened. He criticized the lithium batteries. He criticized the manufacturing emissions. He told the uncomfortable truth that the green agenda wasn't as clean as they claimed. The backlash was insane. They blamed him for slowing down EV sales in the UK. They called him a climate traitor, but he stood his ground. He used his scientific background to ask hard questions. He refused to just go along with the narrative. Now, he is 70. The physical comedy is harder. Man vs. Bee in 2022 showed he still has the timing, but he admitted the stunts wrecked him. He's tired. There is a theory that fans have held for years that Mr. Bean is actually an alien. He falls from the sky in the opening credits. He doesn't understand human behavior. In 2024, the animated series finally confirmed it. He is not of this earth. And in a way, neither is Rowan. He is a man who turned a disability into a superpower. He is a man who conquered the world in silence while screaming on the inside. He is a man who risked his reputation to speak his mind on free speech and the environment when it would have been easier to stay quiet in his mansion. He says he feels like he hasn't achieved anything. He says he feels like a fraud. But look at the legacy. 12 billion views on YouTube. A character that is taught in comedy schools. A body of work that spans generations. Rowan Atkinson is the silent guardian of comedy. He took all the bullying, all the stuttering, all the exhaustion, and he alchemized it into gold for us. He suffered so we could smile. So the next time you see Mr. Bean pull a face, don't just laugh. Respect the man behind the mask, because the boy they called an alien turned out to be the most human of us all.